All right. Okay, our recording has started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Falcone. I'm one of the counselors here,
I'm Cheryl Youngberg, also one of the counselors.
and this is our first coffee with the counselors for the year. We definitely are getting caffeinated on our end. This is meant to be a little more informal than our typical counselor webinars. We thank you for your feedback of what you were hoping to hear about in these sessions. So we have a couple quick talking points just to kind of let you in on what the counseling role looks like at the high school level. But then after that, it'll be a lot of time just to chat and hear what's on your mind, share a little bit about what we're seeing. Like I said, definitely more informal than our typical slide deck and thing that we usually do.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, I think that a lot of things we did want to talk about is just kind of an overview, as Kelly's going to put it up here, as far as the services that we do offer students, but also, just being very clear as far as how and when we do these things, because sometimes when we do it is really important, and hopefully by going through it, it'll be easier to understand. So, Kelly, I'll let you start on some of these.
At the risk of COVID, flashbacks, can everyone see my screen? Is it working? Yeah? I'm still not used to Microsoft Teams, so thanks for bearing with me on that. So, yeah, thinking about what our days look like as high school counselors, I really wanted to start by focusing on how we see your students. So, obviously, there's a lot of students at Cal. We love working with them, and there's kind of different tiers, as I see it, of how students interact with us. So the first level I would say is really kind of referral based. So when we're getting concerns from teachers or families reach out saying that there's significant things happening at home, we get reports saying students aren't doing well in their classes, and it's us pulling in your students. So getting a little pass to their class with the counselor's name on it, asking them to come talk to us, and that could be for a variety of reasons. So I would say most of our day is filled with reaching out to students that we've identified need some extra support. Beyond that is how your students can kind of opt into us. So, drop-in hours, as counselors, I don't know if this is like public knowledge for everyone, but we stagger our hours so that there's always a counselor here in the office ready to answer questions. We obviously encourage students to go to their assigned counselor whenever possible so we can get to know them. It's really important.
We're hearing some people in the background. If everyone can mute, please, that would be great. And then when we do the Q&A piece, we'll open it up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, so drop-in hours. So some counselors are here before school, some counselors are here after school. We're all here during break or lunch for student drop-ins because we know we have students that just have a quick question. They want to come see us, or maybe they've sent us an email and it's like, oh, this would be so much easier to answer in person versus writing you out this whole essay of all my thoughts. So then they just come by during lunch. I will say at the beginning of the year, those can be a little bit longer when everyone is having questions, all the ones they've saved up over the summer. Now, this time of year, Cheryl, I would say I maybe have like a couple students coming to me each lunch period. So it's if the student's like, oh, it's going to take my whole lunch to go see my counselor and ask a question, I just don't think that's the case this time of year.
Right. I mean, definitely, like I said, like for me, for my hours, for example, I am here before school starts, and I am available at brunch, lunch, and also after school. So after the before B period. Okay, so I am available during that time. I think that a lot of times tutorial can get a little confusing, but tutorial, we typically have appointments with students, and we have specific students that we have called that we would like to speak with during that time. So that isn't a drop-in time for students. Some kids do think that. Unfortunately, oftentimes we do have to send them back to class and ask them to come back at brunch or lunch. But typically, like I said, anytime that we're available during those break times for the kids, we try and be as available as possible to them. Obviously, you know, mixed in there, we have meetings that we're required to attend, you know, other obligations that we might have as well. So sometimes it can be hit and miss. And, you know, if I do happen to be in a meeting or any other counselor happens to be in a meeting and you need to speak with your counselor and it happens to fall into the beginning of lunch or something, it would be great to either sign up on our clipboard, which we all have little clipboards outside of our offices where we can call students in when we return. Okay, so there are some options for kids, especially, you know, we know how busy they are and we know how, you know, sometimes the breaks they want to take advantage of that and just kind of chill and eat and be with their friends and stuff. But we certainly are happy to see them if they wanted to drop in and ask a quick question. Scheduling appointments, that is also done by students, which is great. I think that we have a lot of students who email us and say, hey, is it okay if, can I set up an appointment with you to talk about X, Y, or Z? And a lot of times they might even give me a period that works for them. Or, you know, hey, I TA during this period, and or I please don't pull me out of class and please pull me out during tutorial or something. That's always helpful too when students point that out to us. In addition to that, I think that parents, we do get a lot of questions on parents who would like to meet with us. We are unable to accept drop-ins, unfortunately, just because during the school day, we reserve for the students as much as possible. But if you would like to schedule something with us, we do ask that you reach out to us via email, and we can certainly get something set up in person, virtually, or if we can correspond via email, if that is best for you, that would be the best way to reach us. So that's that piece with scheduling appointments. Is there anything else with that, Kelly,
Well,
that I forgot?
what I tell my students, because sometimes you know, a kid will say, oh, I want to talk to you about something that's happening with one of my teachers, or, you know, I'm really stressed about something happening with one of my friends. Can you send me a pass? And, you know, obviously, if it's an emergency, drop everything and do that. But if it's kind of the situation of like, oh, yeah, I just want to talk about, you know, I'm having a hard time in geometry, for instance, I'll say, like, yes, I can send you a pass later this week, or you can come in during drop in hours and you'll get a response sooner because you know, we're trying to schedule all these meetings in with our other obligations. So typically the quickest way, and why I bring up the quickest way for a student to get an answer or help, is to drop in. But yes, absolutely setting up appointments as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'll let you
And
talk
then,
about the workshops.
yes, so workshops, it's something we're trying to grow and do more of. So I know last year, for instance, we had 4-year planning workshops and I guess 3-year planning workshops too, because we offered them to both 9th and 10th graders. We have some college application workshops coming up. I know even today after school, or I guess we're all adults here. Jen and Becky, two of our counselors, are leading a personal insight question workshop to help students write their UC applications. So we're trying to do more of these, you know, whole group services to be able to address these frequent questions and needs that we're seeing. And also giving students a chance to interact with each other. I think it can be really powerful when students have a chance, like they're working on their writing for college essays, and they can kind of peer edit and see what other students are doing versus just working with one adult. Yeah, so something we're trying to grow this year, kind of have always done, but really tried to ramp up last year and are making an intentional effort this year. So
Yeah, I think that, you know, we obviously, on our caseload, each of us have a little over 400 students that we help manage. So we're trying to do as much outreach as we can as far as, okay, well, how about we come in during tutorial and we'll go over this workshop. The nice thing about that is that kids can get time, like Kelly said, with a few counselors that'll be doing it, but also with their peers so that they can kind of talk to one another and figure it out together. So I found that those have been really successful. So yeah, we do have 2 coming up. We got 1 today and then 2 coming up for the UC and then for the CSU for students. And that has been already promoted on Naviance, and students just need to sign up through that. I'll address those other pieces. I think I'll let you take a look at that question, Kelly. There's,
Yeah.
there is timing for everything, and so I think, like, for example, right now, for those of you that are parents of current 12th graders who are applying to college, you would know that this is a pretty crazy season of applying to colleges. A good majority of our students have been applying early action to colleges, which means that's a November 1st deadline, which also means that counselors, we have to get our documents into those colleges by that date as well. So, for example, a lot of September, the entire of October has been meeting with our seniors and talking to them and making sure that their college list is okay and that everything looks good so that we can send everything for students. So it is challenging. I love it when ninth graders come to see me and have questions, and I absolutely encourage them to do that. But sometimes I may say, hey, you know what? We're going to be doing 4-year plans in the spring. And that's a great time to do it, because then you'll kind of know everything that we're offering for your sophomore year, because we will have that update and any other updates that we may need to share with the district so that it can be as productive as possible.
Yeah, the question was about workshops available for sophomores. The other thing I should say that it didn't make it on my slide is we also do classroom visits for each grade level. So we already saw the seniors this year in the theater to talk about options for after high school. We went and introduced ourselves to our freshmen in all of our PE classes and got to talk a little bit about the transition to high school. And really importantly, just like letting them know that we're here as a resource for them. Sophomores and juniors are still to come, so they will get more information from us in their classes. So these workshops are in addition to that. So as far as sophomore workshops, as Cheryl was just saying, this season is really, really busy with college applications. We love this time of year, but it is a sprint. It's a marathon and a sprint, which makes it kind of special. So the other grades will get a little more attention, come November, December, when things a little bit slow down with the college front. One workshop we're wanting to do, and we have done before, is prepping for finals. So especially for our underclassmen, helping them, come December, be thinking about how to get ready for those, semester finals and other things. So we're trying to make workshops based on what we're seeing needs for. So
Right.
really
And
be responsive.
the college application workshop is really just for the seniors who are currently applying, because it really is very specific to the UC application for this year, the CSU application for this year, Common App for this year. And as you know, oftentimes there are changes year to year to applications. So it wouldn't really benefit a sophomore or younger or junior or whatever to go to those workshops, because one, they're not applying. But for seniors to really kind of get that individual help if they need help, like, entering certain classes, or how do I answer this one, or how can you take a look at my those kinds of things, or very specific helping the seniors right now.
Yeah. And then one big question that we got in your feedback of what you're wanting to see is questions about course selection. And each and every one of our students, well, obviously not our seniors, but all of our other students get one-on-one meetings with their counselor come springtime. We take over 3 weeks in doing this and sitting and working and having that one-on-one time with each student to review their courses, transcript, make sure they're on track for their future plans. So every single student gets that. We do call in students that were absent too. So I always joke that whether they want to or not, they'll be meeting with us in the spring to talk about those things.
Yes. Yeah. So, and that's a great time to carve out and figure out what questions that they might have, and to be prepared for that individual meeting. They'll have a heads up as far as when that meeting is happening. So they will have time to kind of prepare some questions if they do have any individual ones for us. There are a couple of questions that have been thrown in there. It looks like, I believe November 1st deadline mentioned is for seniors, correct? Yes, that is for seniors that are applying to colleges. What is called early action to universities. Most of them have a November 1st deadline. That is what we're talking about. The recommendation letters, what is the typical turnaround time from teachers and counselor? Also, does the school follow their own template, or does the student have the option to provide the template? The typical turnaround time, because and it depends on the teachers. They could probably speak to it individually. We have some teachers who are writing up to 40 letters. We have some teachers who might just be writing 10. And
we have some teachers that write like a couple a year, right? It
right.
just depends.
And so it really does depend on what their timeline is, because we do, are having to do this outside of our general work responsibilities. And so I do want to make sure that families are aware of that, because we're doing the best that we can. But if a student does have a November 1st deadline, that is the deadline that I go off of. So, certainly, even if we've met in early October, just because as many letters that we have to write, which is dozens and dozens, even just for the November 1st, we will definitely get that in by November 1st. So the template, we have our own, and we do not receive one from the students. During those times that we have one-on-ones with our students who need a letter of rec, that's a great opportunity for us to talk with them. We go over the questionnaire that they hopefully answered questions on that can help us write the letter. And we also have a parent guardian questionnaire that we have filled out by the parents so that they can also share some amazing things about their child. And so we really do meet with them one-on-one and just kind of talk about and maybe ask for additional information, or try and get them to expand on a certain thing so that we can write the best letter for them.
Yeah. Before we get to in the weeds with some of these questions, I want to talk about other supports that are available on campus, and then we can kind of go back to this. So for those of you who don't know, there are 7 counselors at Cal High that break up the alphabet by students. So like, for example, I have students' last names R-A-K through S. Ms. Youngberg, I think, has K-E through M-E-N. So we all have our little chunk of the alphabet. And the reason we do that is we hope to be able to stay with the same students and families throughout their high school experience. In addition to that, we also have a support counselor. She doesn't have an assigned part of the alphabet. She's just there, Patty Mullins, for any student in need who might be having a tough day. Maybe they're needing some more social emotional support, and being in the role as kind of the more comprehensive counselor, we wear so many different hats that it can be hard to say, like, yes, I have an hour a week to be able to meet with you consistently. We want to make sure they're in good hands. So we can refer to Patty and she'll see the student. We would still be their counselor, but they would also have her as support. So that's an option. We also have our wonderful wellness center that is staffed by a social worker full-time. And they do a lot of different programming too. So one thing I will say is there's different groups there. So if your student is having some needs and you think would benefit from working with other students in a kind of more therapeutic setting, that can be excellent. There's also a little more casual options, like Rochelle, the counselor that social worker that oversees that, does a Friday game group for students looking to make friends. She also has therapy dogs in there, I think every week or every other week. And yes, having dogs on campus is very exciting for students, but it's also a good chance to meet other people who are also looking for support and getting to make our big community feel a little smaller. So lots happening in the Wellness Center.
Yeah,
Cheryl,
I'm
do you
just
want to
going to
talk?
jump in super quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just spoke with Rochelle in the Wellness Center, and she wanted to make sure that I let everyone know that, her website is very thorough and up to date. And she also puts out a monthly newsletter. So if you ever do kind of want to see and check out what the Wellness Center is doing, she does so many different groups and things and offerings for kids. And it's been really great. It's a great resource for our students. The College and Career Center, that is Kathy Nichols. So if you have not heard her name, I'm sure you will soon in the future if you're looking at anything related to career or college. As you know, tonight, hopefully you're aware that tonight is a college and career fair that we're having, which is district-wide. It starts at 6 p.m. and that'll be here at Cal High. So hopefully a lot of you guys are able to make it. It is should be a family night, so parents and students can certainly come. And it's a great, great opportunity to just kind of see all the colleges that are out there. I think we have over 100 represented, and also careers that are represented too. But Ms. Nichols, Kathy, our college and career advisor, she is such a wealth of knowledge in regards to the college, asking about colleges and any background. She knows so many of the college reps as well. If students do log on to Naviance, they can see how many college visits have happened. I feel as though she has been, during the month of October, it almost feels like she's had 2 to 3 colleges visiting every day. And students are able to sign up to visit with those colleges where they can kind of get some personal insight and be able to ask individual questions. It's a great opportunity. You do have to sign up ahead of time. So if you notice that, oh, okay, Boise State was just here the other day, and maybe that's a school that's on my list, you would just have to go into Naviance and sign up for that, and then you'll be given a pass so that you can come out and go to that presentation. Very, very helpful, and I think a lot of kids enjoy it. So there will be many more college visits, I think, going through November, is my understanding.
I think it's great too, if you're wondering like if that's something your student should be doing. I would say it makes sense for sophomores to kind of check out a few of those to see what it's all about, and then really junior year to be exploring those things a little more closely. So just because I know we have parents of all grade levels in here, so.
Yeah, great. And then, the social emotional counseling, as as far as the counselors go, we all have, like I mentioned before, we are managing 400 students. We talk to them about academics, we talk to them about future planning, but we also are specially trained in helping support them socially, emotionally. So we are absolutely do have that background. So if kids do have any concerns and they would like to talk to us individually about something they're worried about, or they're worried about a friend, we absolutely encourage them to come and talk to us. So we are also available for that too.
Yeah, and we have a few trainees who are in their licensure or earning hours towards licensure to be therapists that also work with students. So
Right, right.
Lastly, peer tutoring. If you haven't heard, we have learning labs here on campus. Those happen during student support or tutorial, and it is a staffed classroom. So there is a staff member in there who is overseeing our wonderful peer tutoring workforce. Students from our academic leadership course that have been trained as tutors, students from National Honor Society who are tutoring and earning service hours by doing so. We have them in a wide range of subjects. So math, world language, science, and then English and history all have learning labs that either students can sign themselves up for or a teacher can refer them for. It's a really great kind of step if a student is like, "Ooh, I need help figuring out how to study for a test," or I missed this day and this concept and I just really want to be able to go and brush up on it with someone. Obviously, they can always go to their teacher during student support. We just have gotten really positive feedback from students about how refreshing it is to kind of be working with another student closer to them in age who has gone through this recently, who's learned how to learn this. So really wonderful resource.
Yeah, great. Awesome. I think we kind of covered everything on the slide. I can go back to some of the questions here. Is that okay, Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the questions, will the parents be notified the time when students are meeting counselors in person during spring? Typically, we do give out a general timeline, but because we're meeting with so many students and it is so fast, oftentimes we might say, we will be meeting with 10th graders during the second week of March or something of that sort. So we take that entire week to be able to try and catch our that grade level. So we do meet by grade level. And typically we'll take the entire week to do that so that we can meet individually with them. And usually we do kind of share a timeline as far as, generally when that is going to be. But that typically does happen in March and April.
Yeah. And for anyone new to our community that might not have been here for our course selection process last year, we also do parent nights before we meet with the students. So the students will will go into classrooms, visit, give them a sheet about their course offerings, answer the students' questions, and then sometime in the same time frame, we do a virtual night where we're going over that same information with the parents, asking the parents questions. And this is all before we have that individual meeting with the student. So lots of times for both students and parents questions to get answered about courses for next year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we work really hard on those presentations. So oftentimes, sometimes parents or students might say, "Hey, I want to talk to you and just kind of like map out my entire academic plan." And I always encourage parents and students to first see the presentation and go to the presentation, because a lot of questions will be answered during that. We work really hard on making it very thorough. And then, of course, after our individual meeting, and then if things then come up after that, we do our best to try and make sure. Michelle, thank you so much for posting the list of colleges that are going to be at the college fair and college and career fair tonight. I don't know if you can click on that, but there are a lot on there.
And I guarantee, knowing Kathy, since she made that, she's probably would be able to tell me like, oh yeah, and these 3 also responded and are coming. So she just wants to make this the biggest and best fair possible. So
yes,
definitely don't want to miss it.
All right, the next question is, how does recommendation work as for counselors? Should students meet with counselor and request, or they can just add counselor information, email address in their application? Kelly, do you want to kind of go over like the post-grad plan survey and kind of how?
So this is something that we talked about, and this really only applies to seniors. Junior students will get this information in fall of next year. But during our senior presentations, we ask them to fill out a survey, and within that survey, that's where they indicate if they need a counselor letter and what that deadline would be. From there, we give them the information about what they would need to fill out. We schedule a meeting with them and then kind of work with them about their letter of rec process. So it all kind of happens through that survey they were asked to fill out. And then, of course, we tell them if there's been any changes since you filled that out, please come talk to us. So they would need to do more than just putting they don't just there's nowhere for them to actually put in a counselor into their application. So that's why they need to talk to us about it.
Yeah. I mean, and I've still had a couple of seniors, because I know seniors are busy, but I think that if there's anything that we can encourage of all of our students, and I constantly tell this to my own children, to check your email. I think that we did give out that survey during the presentation. We had a good amount of students who did it, but of course, some may have missed it. So then we emailed it out several times to our seniors, kind of trying to send reminders to them. And I think that, sometimes their inbox gets overwhelmed, or maybe they don't check it very often, but especially for our seniors, because that is just a good life lesson. And also in the college application process, that's where you're going to be seeing a lot of updates and information from the colleges you've applied to. So it's just a good thing to start getting in the habit of doing. So we did ask our seniors several times to fill out that post-grad survey, because that is how we know what they need. So super important that they did that. All right. Do we list? Oh, okay. We have that. The colleges that are coming to the fair, which is listed. When to sign up for AP Spanish 3? For AP Spanish 3?
I think that's what it says, yeah.
Okay. I mean, we don't really guide on that, to be honest with you, because it sounds like if you're doing that during the summer, you're doing that with an outside institution. So that would all depend on where you decided to take it, and making sure that you meet the deadlines for whatever institution that is, whether that is a community college or whether that is an online institution. I think that there's lots of there's information out there on how to do that and what is required for you to be able to sign up for that and have it count for colleges. So a lot of that is kind of an individual thing, depending on the institution or where you decide to take it. But yeah, I think that covers it. Is there anything else you want to add to that one, Kelly?
No.
Okay.
I will say, for the question about a list of key dates for seniors and juniors, one thing that we talked about during our senior family night, but if anyone else wants to check it out, I will talk about it now too. On our counseling website, we have our senior guidebook under college and career information, and that is a really we try to make it a really robust resource in terms of lots of information there, kind of all at students' fingertips, ready to explore. And one of the things there is kind of a timeline. Um, to be able to kind of envision what these next couple of years are going to look like for upperclassmen. So that is on our counseling website. Um, I have my screen shared, so I can't pull it up right now. But if you Google Cal High Counseling, that is our webpage, and that has a bunch of information in addition to the senior guidebook that I'm referring to.
Yeah, there is an academic planning tab that has a lot of great information for you to be able to have the student work with, and you can work with your student as well. So definitely some options. All right, Kelly, I think you shared that. Can you just reiterate the process to book peer tutoring sessions?
Yeah, so I would say the easiest way for a student to do that is to talk to their teacher. And the reason I say that is because there is a Google form that the teachers can fill out where they can say what the student specifically needs help with and provide any materials. So that is my preferred method. The other way would be on the doors of the learning labs, which I would need to look up. Students do get emails about it. They can go and write their name on the door as well. But I do think that going through the teacher is the best because of that. And also, I just really think it's helpful for teachers to know that students are looking for extra support. I think that ask can be communicating some really important information.
Yeah, definitely. How to get to know about workshops, when, date, where, etc. For our students, for the student workshops that we do offer, we do promote by sending emails to them. We also put it on our Naviance so that they can sign up. All of our college visits are through Naviance. The upcoming workshops that we're offering have been through Naviance as well.
Yeah.
And I know that some of the freshmen, sophomore, and even juniors may say, well, my student doesn't really go on Naviance. Well, we encourage you to do that, especially for those who want to see where the college visits are happening, but also for the seniors, they are probably on it a lot more frequently because they use it for, getting organized with their college applications, and so that we can send everything on their behalf. But also it has those workshops right there for them, so they're notified for that and can sign up.
Yeah, they do get it in emails as well. So yeah, it's such a important skill. I think some of our seniors are kind of feeling it now of, oh man, I wish I got into the habit of checking my email a bit better. So maybe that's something that we can recruit parents to help us with of like, hey, have your kid do a monthly inbox purge of going through and trying to get up to date. I would recommend more than that, but at the very least, because I see some of these students and I'm like, did you get that email I sent you? They pull it up, they have 3,000. I'm not even exaggerating, unread emails. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why you might have missed that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. I think that's just a great life skill to help them, especially for our seniors who are going off to college and bigger and brighter things after they leave here. All right. Thank you for the information for parents on there in regards to the Facebook. How does recommendation work with teachers? Should student meet with the teacher and request, or they can just add their address in their application? It really is very important for students to talk with the teacher first in person to ask for a letter of recommendation. Do not just add them on there. Teachers that are writing a letter of recommendation, it's not required of them, to be honest with you. So you may ask a teacher who may say no, for whatever reason, or maybe there's some teachers out there who they teach all juniors and they have to limit how many they write because they just want to make sure that they could get it all done and turn in quality letters for their students. So it's super important that they ask their teachers individually. Once the teacher has agreed to it, then they can add it in Naviance, and then of course, follow up with any pertinent information that the teacher might need so that they can write a letter for them.
At this time, the question is there a junior timeline available? I don't think we have one published yet, but that's certainly something we could look at doing. There
And it
are
looks
a bunch out there. If you look at other resource, like if you look at College Board or College Essay Guy, some of my favorite resources for kind of thinking about college planning, things like that already exist. We just try to synthesize that information and then also put in some Cal High specific stuff that wouldn't obviously be reflected in those other places.
right, absolutely. I think we do have someone with their hand up.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know if you like call on someone but if you raise your hand, feel free to unmute.
I've got Venkat. If you wanted to unmute and ask your question, you're more than welcome to. Unless that was an accident. Not sure. I think
Sorry, that was my accident.
Oh, here we go. Hello.
I think you said it was an accident.
Oh, okay. Sounds
it's
good.
like the kid in class. Are you stretching or do you have your hand raised?
Right. No worries. Yeah, I mean, I think that we have addressed a lot of the questions that are in here. Does anyone have additional questions they would like to ask? Anything about what we presented? I know that we talked a lot heavily about seniors today, and I think that just kind of goes to show how we are in our senior season right now, and we've got deadlines to meet. So I think that there's some anxious kids, anxious parents, and anxious counselors who are trying to get it all done in time. All right.
Thank you, Michelle, for posting that link to the senior timeline.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful. That's another one that we really told students. We said, please bookmark the senior guide so that you can refer to it regularly. It has a bunch of information on there. And usually 9 times out of 10, the question that you have is going to be in there. So, yes.
And then for today's college fair, yes, the whole family is invited. So no limit on parents being able to attend. Oh, volunteer hours. Cal High and San Ramon San Ramon Valley as a whole, we do not require volunteer hours for graduation. So we don't have any way of accepting those because we don't monitor it. There are some clubs that students need volunteer hours for, so they would turn it into someone at their club potentially. But as far as the school as a whole, that's not something that we're involved with.
Yeah.
I do recommend. Oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
Oh.
I was going to say, I do recommend students keeping track of them. I know freshman year, by the time they're seniors, freshman year seems like a long time ago. So keeping kind of a running document of what they've done, and even making some sort of hours log for themselves, getting someone at the volunteer hours to sign off on it. Just that way, should the student ever need proof of it, they have kind of that running history, and they're not needing to estimate because their applications will say like, how many hours have you done? And they're like, well, gosh, I don't know. But if you had it in a spreadsheet, it would make your life a lot easier in the future.
Yes. I just switched. So as you know, as Kelly had said earlier, we are very new to Teams.
Oh.
So we are just learning this process. Anon, thank you so much for pointing that out. I think a lot of people were starting to just put the questions in the chat, but there was nothing there that usually there's a number that pops up there, that Q&A, that questions are being asked.
Yeah.
So thank you. We are now in the Q&A section. So I appreciate you pointing that out. We will get better next time.
That was a very gentle and kind way to say it too. Thank you.
All right. As the parents of a senior that transferred from international to Cal High in her junior year, we are faced with challenges with getting her international credits recognized while applying to colleges.
So what I will say for that is the colleges have their own processes of dealing with this. Every college is going to have an admissions officer that specializes in students with mixed records, which is what it's called when a student has both international credits and domestic credits. So I get that process can be a little frustrating. Ultimately, though, right, it is up to the college's discretion because we can only speak to the credits that students earned at our school.
Right.
So if there's more specific feedback you want to give, please share it with the counselor of your student. But just generally talking about how that process works, we know it can be a little overwhelming, but we're here to kind of walk through students what that process looks like. And then if there are more specific questions, please do let us know.
Yeah, I think it's really also important to note we don't, because international transcript is oftentimes very different than ours. We don't try and interpret it in any way where we try and say, oh, they took this class, so we're going to call it this over here. So we don't, the colleges prefer to see the actual international transcript. And believe it or not, they probably are familiar with the school that your child was at, wherever they were, because they have a department that specializes just in evaluating international transcripts. So there should be an opportunity for you to say where that international school was. And even though there might not be a drop down or easy to put it in there, it does take a little bit of a longer process. But just make sure, I think it's good that you have transcripts available and ready and able to be sent by that international institution to the college as well. Now, hopefully most of them have the ability to do that electronically. It goes there very quickly, and they will evaluate separately the transcript from, maybe ninth grade from their international school to 10th through 12th grade at Cal High. All right.
For the college and career fair tonight, do we think it'd be valuable for a senior to attend who's applying early action? If they already have their college list fairly solidified, then I'm kind of on the fence about it. It wouldn't, if they haven't submitted their applications yet, they could go and meet their representatives and just ask if there's anything else about their application to be aware of. The career part, it's some different technical programs being represented. So I think off the top of my head, we have people from the firefighting program at Las Positas, people from the welding program, I think cosmetology school, auto mechanics. So different trades and careers.
Yes. So a lot of times they may be some technical schools where students can earn certificates and go straight into training and jobs. So lots of different careers such as that. So really great opportunity to check those out. I've been told by my Grizzly that they feel rushed during class selection meeting and they are unable to get all of their questions answered. I know that it can be a chaotic environment. You're right. When we're trying to meet with 400 students, we also go to the middle school and meet with those students as well. I always tell students that if there are any questions that they didn't feel were answered or that they have additional, to send me an email, or they can always come during my drop-ins and visit with me and continue the conversation. So it's never like, okay, now we're done and you can't see me again. Absolutely. Please, follow up with more questions with me. Not a problem at all. So I know that could be hard for students to try and assert that and be assertive about it, but it's really a great skill for them to be able to, if they have follow-up questions, to just come on back during drop-ins or send us an email so that we can make sure all their questions are answered.
We even have students, because these meetings are all happening in the break room up in the main building. That way we're near the classes. We even have students that pop back in during lunch of hey, I just had a couple more questions I wanted to answer, and that's totally fine.
Yes.
Their course requests aren't set in stone until months later anyway. So even if they wanted to come back a couple of weeks later after they'd thought about it and have more questions, they could always talk to us then too.
Mm-hmm. Last year, UC Berkeley's admission significantly dropped for Cal High comparing to our own previous years. Wondering, does our school know why or have any thoughts?
I haven't looked as closely at that data. Even just hearing that, I'm kind of curious if we had maybe more students apply, that would result in a lower admission rate, potentially, if more students who maybe were I'm just going to shoot my shot and see what happens. Because we hear that a lot of the phrasing of students of, I just want to see if I can get in, right? They know it's a bit of a stretch, but they're wanting to try. Like I said, I didn't look too closely at that to be able to have more of an answer.
Right. I think, when we try and talk to students about really kind of narrowing down their colleges and trying to get that real final list, there's definitely what we are seeing. I think that a lot of kids are either feeling nervous or they're getting advice from elsewhere. But I have a lot of kids who say they're applying to the UCs, and when I ask which one, they say all of them. And that is just something I've been doing this for 21 years, And that is just not, that was never the norm. Students, all the UCs are different. They're not all the same, and they all have different offerings. And so we really do ask the students to try and narrow it down. But when you have, a class of 700 and a good percentage of them saying, well, I'm just going to apply to all of them and see what happens, that's how, unfortunately, our rate does go down because of that. So I think there's that piece to it. Obviously, just kind of looking at where the applications were, as you know, UCLA and Berkeley are very, very challenging colleges, and those are the lowest percentages. But yeah, I think that the fall 2023 admit rate overall for Berkeley was 15%. Yeah. So, I mean, which is tough, 15% across the board. And I will say that, the way that UCs typically do it, they do kind of evaluate by region. So they do see, they try and do compare how you are performing to your peers.
These next two questions kind of go together, so I'm going to speak to them both at the same time. So within Naviance, there is data about the results for our seniors for their college application process. At the end of the year, we do what we call senior checkout, where we ask seniors where they're going and the result of their applications. They're doing that in Naviance, and then Naviance takes that data and puts it into a scattergram that kind of shows how our students fared in the college admissions process, giving data about it for future students to be able to use. So that is where that data is. Parents don't have Naviance accounts, students do. So your students all have access to them through their ClassLink portal. There's a little tile in there that says Naviance. So I would say your seniors should know about it. Juniors, maybe we kind of briefly touched on it when they were sophomores. But when we go into junior classrooms, when is that, Cheryl? Beginning of January?
Yes.
We're doing. We'll go more in depth with them, and then sophomores later in the spring.
Yeah, we usually have them do some sort of an inventory just so that they can kind of, figure out and kind of start narrowing things down. So I ask them a bunch of questions, but there's a lot of great things on there, like as far as like career clusters and personality inventories, things like that, that are very, very helpful in Naviance. So we do encourage students to go on that. So Naviance in general, I know we've mentioned that a ton here. And so for the underclassmen or whatever, for those that are like, what even is it? It is our college and career website that is offered for our students, that where they can explore all colleges and all careers, see what all the rates are, and like what Kelly was mentioning, see also how our past Cal High students did as far as if they were able to get admitted into it. So if you wanted to see, oh, I want to see how many kids, got into Vanderbilt, you would be able to see that in Naviance through your student's account. They have access to that, and we do show them how to see that.
And all grade levels do have a Naviance account already created.
Yes, it's one of their little tiles that they can choose. So it's automatically there for them to log into. Right. I know it says that there are new posts. Do you want to jump over it to make sure that we didn't miss anything?
Yeah. Questions about the junior timeline link. I don't know when it will be published, because this is when it was brought to our attention. So when we get to it, it will be on our counseling website. Really, though, there aren't any major hard and fast deadlines for juniors, just because really the focus of junior year is to keep exploring your interests, and then to start by the end of junior year to have a rough draft of a college list. So there's nothing junior year where it's going to be like, yes, by May 1st you need this. That just it's a prep year.
Yes. How early can a student apply to college? So that is reserved only for seniors who are in their last year of high school applying to college. So, the years prior is a lot of exploration, narrowing things down, figuring out where your interests are, what a major is, even those kinds of things happen earlier. In the senior year is when that list is finalized and we start applying. So only seniors are applying to colleges. I will say I also get a lot of questions in regards to scholarships too, which we encourage students to fill out as well. the majority of the scholarships that are out there are also for graduating seniors. Um, Typically, what we say is, in the fall, we know that you're working very hard on these applications, get those applications in, do the FAFSA when that's open, and then you're going to go roll right into scholarship applications. So it's a busy year for our seniors, but a lot of the scholarship applications and deadlines are during the spring semester of a student's senior year.
Yeah. I think just sitting here thinking about a lot of the questions that have come up, what came up for me as I'm hearing them is I think the biggest thing that we really need from you all as parents is to support your students and children in advocating for themselves, because we as counselors, like, we can't read minds. We don't know what necessarily is needed or what their experience is unless it's being shared with us. And I know it can be hard. It's not easy when you're 14, 15 years old to communicate what your needs are. So helping give those gentle pushes of like, yeah, if you have a question, you're wanting more information from your counselor, tell us about it. If it's too scary to talk about it in person, sending us an email of like, hey, this is something I've been wondering about. And right, just like a junior timeline, yeah, that's a great idea. We'd love to take that on. But unless it's being brought to our attention, we might not always think of it.
Why is there a lot of emphasis on prestige in colleges? We don't know, and we would like that to stop. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, that's not really the answer, but we understand why there is concern. And I think that, a lot of us are also asking the question why as well. Um, as those of us who have gone to college, once you get there, you kind of realize that it really is what you make of that experience, more so than the name brand of the college. But I'm not so sure. We do our very, very best to make sure that students are aware of how many colleges are out there. One of the things that we actually share in the very beginning with juniors, because a lot of times they come in already anxious and nervous about it. And we do show the statistics as far as like, yeah, there's probably some select colleges where it's really, really hard to get into, but there are thousands of other colleges that may absolutely be your fit and that you should be open to. So we do try and help expand their knowledge on that and make sure that they're aware that it's not about the name brand college, it's about the fit and making sure that you're okay. I always tell kids who, they're applying to some schools where they don't know about it or they haven't, they've never visited or they have no idea where the school is located even sometimes. And, it's just that reminder of telling kids, okay, like this is where you're going to be spending the next 4 to 5 years of your life, like a huge transition in your life where you're going to be starting it on your own. And you just want to make sure that you're doing as much research as possible on those colleges. And we encourage them to open it up as much as possible. And Kathy Nichols does a great job of having a variety of schools come and visit us. And even sometimes there will be a student who will come in and say, I'm interested in, in this particular, in turf grass management, whatever it is. And there aren't a whole lot that have that majors. Kathy will go and find one. And if that student is really interested, she'll even reach out to whoever the college rep is for and see if they could come to campus. So she's a great resource for that.
Yeah. The other thing that we spend some time, and I think is kind of the focus of some of our classroom visits with the juniors, is what makes a college a good Air Bunnies college and really getting into what they're looking for. I used to do this exercise and it takes a while, so I would need to find a teacher who would let me into their classroom to do it, but it was a blind date with a college, and I would have different packets of information about universities, but all of their branding is, redacted from it. So they would be reading about these colleges without having any idea of what college it was, and then they would rank the ones they were most interested in, and I would say 9 times out of 10, they were shocked with which college was their favorite one. And I think it just says a lot about kind of the human experience of going towards what's familiar and going towards what we know sounds impressive and wanting to kind of have that and take ownership of that, of being able to say like, yeah, I did this, when in the reality it's like, it's harder and takes more research, and I think that's why it's harder to focus on what your experience would be at these different colleges. Because yes, totally valid, you want a college where you would graduate with a degree that makes you highly sought after for employment. Um, but I don't think the only way to do that is a brand name college.
I agree. Great way to say that. I'm just flipping back over to the Q&A. I don't know if anything else was asked there. I don't think so. Maybe something did.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, good. We're at 9:55 and we are going to be ending in just a couple of minutes here. I just wanted to thank everyone who has logged on. I know that every time we put this out there, you parents are amazing and are always like quick to reply and say, yes, please, counselors, more information. Like it's like you guys can't get enough. So we really appreciate it, and we try our best to make sure that we are, giving out this information, not just in regular presentations, but in informal ways just like this too. But I think that's all the questions that we have. I think these are great questions. For the next Coffee with the Counselors, we're not quite sure. We may have more targeted subjects that we're going to be talking about. So be on the lookout for what that is. But we will have another one in November, and I think another one we scheduled already in December. Is that right, Kelly?
Yes, I would be interested though in some parent feedback about time, because we've typically done these in the mornings just because we're kind of envisioning you drop the kid off at school, maybe have some time before getting to work. But if the early afternoon is better, if there are other times of day where, this would make sense to have, we are open to that feedback as well.
Great. All right. Well, I think we are good.
I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.